Beautiful song, would you agree?
Yes.
And you know, if anyone ever told you that you are anything less than beautiful, you would know that they don't get it. And you would know that it's not about you. Because what they don't get is the truth of who you are. You are spirit expressing at the point of you, which makes you very beautiful. Which makes you very beautiful. Well, before I start this morning, when Cher and I work for corporate, and thank you for saving us from that. When we worked with a site manager and his or her management team and went to their place of business to help them work out some issues that they needed to work out, we would have a blank sheet of paper just outside the door of the meeting room. And as every manager, before they walked into that meeting room, they would put their position title on that blank sheet of paper, so that when they walked in the meeting room, essentially they were leaving their egos at the door. Because we had important issues to discuss. Wanted those folks to be real with one another. Well, before we start our mass confusion this morning, that's the title of our talk, I want each of you to take your right hand and move to the left part of your face and take your mask off. We leave our egos at the door here in Greensboro. Because we are beautiful and there's no need for a mask, right? We are beautiful as we are. Without the mask, without the coating. Well, you know, we've all worn masks at Halloween, and it looks like next week we'll be wearing masks again this year. Some of us have even worn Mardi Gras masks. Others of us have worn protective masks issued by our employers. As a matter of fact, healthcare employees right now are wearing protective masks and equipment as they help the world with Ebola to control that. Masks are very important, obviously, as protective equipment. Now, mask comes from the Latin word mascus. Greek and Roman masks had a brass megaphone at the mouthpiece area, and that allowed the wearer, the speaker, to project to the audience. And of course, today we have mics that help us do that, and so there's no need for a mask to help us say what we need to say. The first use of masks in contemporary theater can be traced to the San Francisco Mime Troupe, founded in 1959, and to Peter Schumann and his Bread and Puppet Theater, which he founded in America in the 1960s. Now, there are oxygen masks, surgical masks, gas masks, swimming masks, baseball catcher masks, ice hockey masks, paintball masks, carnival masks, welding masks, hazmat masks, Phantom of the Opera mask, Darth Vader mask, Batman and Robin mask, and Batwoman mask, and Halloween mask of every imaginable kind you can think of. And there are those of you who have already purchased your Halloween mask, no doubt. Well, what's interesting is that one of the best-selling Halloween masks over the last 10, 15 years has been the Darth Vader mask. Still the #1 seller. Isn't that incredible? Now, much like the prodigal son in the New Testament, Vader comes to himself and remembers who he is. Cher and I believe that one of the reasons the Darth Vader mask is so popular is that its subconscious significance to our own spiritual growth. Like Vader and the prodigal son, we eventually come to ourselves and realize who we are. We must realize that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are divine beings. But some of us don't realize we're divine beings. We are Christ expressing at the point of us. But some of us don't realize we're the Christ expressing at the point of us. All of us are masquerading, when you think about it, as human beings. There are Bill Mask and Cher Mask and Pat Mask and Todd Mask and Rick Mask and Moses Mask and Victor Mask, Mary Margaret Mask, and Charlotte Mask, Travis Mask. All of us are wearing a mask of some sort. So look at the people sitting next to you very quickly. They are all wearing masks. We've all taken one of those masks off this morning. We've taken one of those masks off this morning, but there are layers of masks that we wear. They are called our ego personalities. We are well masked. They are our personas. They are our rising signs. They are the us that we wish to project to the world. The facades we use to conceal who we really are. And our bodies are our costumes. When you think about it, I like to call our bodies our somatic spacesuits. Because that's what we wear to conceal our true identity. We hide behind masks of fear and guilt and shame and resentment and unworthiness and anger and anxiety, jealousy, worry, revenge, greed, hatred. They are masks that we wear when we choose to give our power away. One of the masks I used to wear was one called resentment. I wore it for years, I'm embarrassed to say. It was a mask that defined my relationship with Cher's mother and brother. For years. Cher and I have been married 37 years. And I say that out of embarrassment because for a lot of that time I wore the mask of resentment toward her mother and brother. I resented them for making it very clear to us that they disapproved of Cher's and my becoming unity ministers. We are ministers of a cult as far as they were concerned. And Cher was hurt by their lack of support, but she forgave them many years ago. To her credit. Well, I wasn't quite that bright. I held on to my resentment, wore my mask proudly. But I finally chose to forgive them this year.
Good.
And take my mask of resentment off.
Awesome.
One of the lessons I learned was to turn disrespect and ignorance into something positive. For example, the more I thought about their mistaking unity, us, as a cult, the more tickled I got. And the more tickled I got, the more creative I got. It occurred to me that the word cult isn't a noun at all. It's really an acronym. And here are two acronyms that I come up with. The first acronym is that cult could mean Christianity upped a level to truth. Or it could mean, that's a little judgmental, so it could mean that Christianity unitized lovingly and thoughtfully.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome.
So the traditional meaning for the word cult doesn't apply to unity at all, and you know that, I know that. But we're about as far away as you can get to cult as a noun. So I invented the acronyms for cult, and they describe us very nicely, don't you agree?
Yes.
If you're wearing a mask of fear or doubt or resentment or guilt or unworthiness or anger or jealousy or worry or envy or revenge or greed or any other kind of self-diminishing mask, Cher and I invite you to take those masks off and leave them off. You don't need them. Peel them off one by one. Turn them into acronyms. For example, the fear mask could say, false evidence appearing real.
Uh-huh.
The envy mask could say, errors never vanquish you.
Okay.
Make up your own, of course, once you've taken the mask off. In your mind's eye now, think of one of the masks that you've worn, ever worn. Could be this week, last month, even this morning. Mentally take it off. Give yourself a facial. what you will always find under the mask you are wearing is that you are a being of light. You are light beings under mass confusion. In Matthew 5:14, the Christ as Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." You will hear that same message from Cher and me. You are the light of the world masquerading as a human being. When we shed our mask here in Greensboro, we won't have to mask who we are and what we stand for. The world will see that unity really is Christianity unitized lovingly and thoughtfully. That's our message to the world. And there's one more thing I'm not going to mask this morning. And that's my joy for making room for Cher at Code.
So, are you ready to let your light shine?
Yes.
Let it just shimmer as you send your light out into the world by removing the masks that you're wearing. We want to look at two things as we think about what are we doing with our masks. And one is, why is it so important to move them? And the second, of course, is, so how do we recognize it and get rid of it? So I want to talk about why first. And why is really fun, because I got the idea of why from a movie. And it's a movie that's been around a long time, but I bet some of you have seen it, The Mask.
Yes.
With Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Y'all remember that movie? Wasn't it great? It was one that made him become who he is, known as now. But what was interesting in the movie, he played this clerk called Stanley Ipkiss. And he was totally, he just would let everybody walk all over him. He couldn't stand up for himself. And people just beat up on him all the time. After one of the worst days in his life, he was out just bemoaning everything. And he discovered a mask, a wooden mask by the water. And this mask was possessed by Loki, which is the Norse god of mischief and the night. All right? And when he put this mask on, it attached to him. And he immediately transformed into this weird character in a wild suit doing crazy things and making weird faces. And he would go out among the night and try to save the world and make a little mischief in the process. The point of the movie was, or one point of the movie was, that the mask overtook him. When he had the mask on, he was no longer Stanley Ipkiss. He was the mask. Do you see what this says to us? Yeah. When we allow our masks to stay too long, they stick to us like glue. They become who we are. And it affects everything we do. So we may not even be able to recognize ourselves anymore. So what we want to do is think about, what does that mean? How can I just make sure I'm not letting things stick to me like glue? So I like to give you pictures, visual pictures to kind of put in your mind to remind you. One that I thought of immediately was, you've noticed I have long nails, okay? Occasionally they break. Usually I have something to repair them with. But one time I remember that I had nothing there, and I really needed to fix it, and somebody suggested super glue. I think I was doing a class or something. So I thought, super glue, okay, I can do that. Well, let's just say, number one, I was not the neatest person in the world. Number two, I did not realize the power of super glue. And number three, I did not realize how quickly it bonded. So needless to say, I ended up with a couple of fingers literally stuck together. Panic. Thank you to Bill for keeping me from going into an absolute total panic, because I thought I was going to walk around like this the rest of my life. And for days I was peeling little white pieces off of my fingers. It was horrible. I think I literally changed the imprint of my fingerprint on the day. But I did realize then, I don't want anything sticking to me like glue. All right? I don't like that. I know what it feels like. So if you're feeling something sticking to you like glue with the way you're projecting yourself, let it go. It's time to peel off the mask. Another visual, in case the glue one doesn't work for you. Has anybody ever had the unfortunate experience of leaving the restroom, having a little trail of toilet paper stuck to your heel? And you're thinking, like, where did that come from? And And where is it when I need it, like when you're in a stall with no toilet paper at all? Well, you know, you don't want that. You don't need it, and you don't know where it came from, and you don't know how to get rid of it. That's what I want you to see in your mind. I want you to see yourself with that little trail of toilet paper. If you're feeling like you've got a mask you're wearing that doesn't belong to you. That's why it's so important to remove them. We don't want our masks to control who we are. So once we know why, then we have to be able to recognize our masks, because they can be insidious. You know this? They can really be sly. Even our masks wear masks. For example, you may have a mask of fear of not having enough, lack consciousness. But that mask may be covered with a mask of being conservative. Now, there's nothing wrong with being conservative with your money unless it's grounded in the fear of not having enough. So sometimes even the things we think are our good masks, we need to be willing to look behind and be sure. Let me give you an example. When Bill and I were researching a team building activity that we did called Desert Survival, we read some research where they had actually found people in the desert who had died there of dehydration, and they still had water in their canteen. And you ask yourself, how could that be? How could somebody die of dehydration and have water in their canteen? And what they deduced, of course they couldn't ask them, but what they deduced was people had such a fear of running out of water that they wouldn't drink it. And then as they started to dehydrate, their conscious awareness of making choices was affected in such a way that they couldn't even realize how much they needed the water. Now that's an extreme example, but I share it so you can realize the power that our masks can have over us if we don't take them off. So what we want to do is begin to peel away those masks. I want to ask you, what are the masks you're wearing? Do you know what they are? You'll recognize them because you start to feel uncomfortable. Or you start to rationalize and justify your behavior. You can find reasons to describe it. Well, you know, if you're coming from authenticity, you don't do that. Have you ever noticed that? When you're being authentic, there's no reason to have to justify what you're doing or saying. But when you're wearing a mask, you feel like you always have to. You may feel those negative emotions, things that are out of sync with the truth of who you are. And at the moment you feel that, just know you're wearing a mask. And begin to ask yourself, what mask am I wearing? And am I wearing several? And do I need to peel through? And I want to give you the acronym. Bill gave you the acronym for CULT, which I love. Bill gave you the acronym for a couple of his masks, so the masks that he was talking about. And you can make up your own acronyms, but we want to give you an overall one on how to deal with the masks you're wearing. And it's the word mask itself. And the word mask gives you the clue, the secret to getting rid of mask confusion and turning it into mask unfusion. The word mask tells you to meditate and simply know. Take a breath. Now say that with me. Meditate and simply know. Doesn't it settle nicely? It's so simple, and yet it resonates with the truth of who we are. Whenever we're out of sync with the world, whenever we feel like our masks are becoming part of who we are, and we don't like them, guess what? All we have to do is go into that place of the domain of the divine, that place that is the portal to the field of infinite potential. And in that moment, we can know. What do we know? Meditate and know that you have the power of choice. And you get to choose how you feel, how you respond, how you act in any situation. You get to choose. Isn't that powerful? You get to choose whether you wear the mask or not. You get to choose to let it go. You get to choose to embrace the good that is right there for you. It's your choice. Meditate and know that you have the power of choice. Meditate and know that your consciousness is greater than any mask you Your consciousness is greater than any mask you wear. Your consciousness is greater than any fear you may encounter. It's greater than any relationship issue you may be faced with. It's greater than any financial issue that may be in front of you. Your consciousness is greater than anything the world of appearance can throw at you. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
To know that? You can know that when you meditate. Meditate and know you have the power of choice. Meditate and know your consciousness is greater than any of your masks. Meditate and simply know you are God expressing. You are God expressing. Who needs a mask when you get to be that? You are God expressing. You are worthy. So take a look at the masks you're wearing. None of them come close to the reality of your authenticity, which is God expressing. So get rid of your masks. Let your light shine as you walk the spiritual path